Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, how you doing today?
Good morning to you, Tyrone. I'm great, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you today.
No, thank you so much for participating in this because what you're doing is really important work. So I'm familiar with you, but a lot of people have no idea how wonderful you are. So please tell us about yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Well, I don't know about how wonderful I am, but Swim Strong organization is my baby, if you will. As a matter of fact, we'll be celebrating our 15th anniversary in early July on the 6th. And we are a not for profit here in New York City. Our mission is to reduce unintended drowning and water based accidents. And we do that in two ways. One, the traditional way that you might expect by providing swim lessons to children, adults. We have adaptive programs for those that need one on one attention. We also have special programming for military recruits, those that want to join the Navy, the Coast Guard, or the Marines, but can't swim. And there is a swim test that's required that you
Yes.
must pass. So we now have 59 young men and women in service as it relates to that. And then before the pandemic hit, we had started a program with veterans. So to kind of close that loop. So we've reached now more than 10,000 students
Wow.
and taught them those good swimming skills. And then we also have provided over $1 million in free swim lessons to families that needed that help. And we start a program called Know Before You Go about 3.5 years ago. And it really, it's about water safety, but not in the traditional sense that many people associate that with. It's really not about swimming skills. Instead, it focuses on the environmental nature, conditions, danger of different bodies of water compared to each other. So wherever we meet water inside our own homes or outside, and also on a seasonal basis. And the reason we did that is because climate change is really uh, making such a huge impact on the way we see water. Our world is becoming so much more watery. We have rising sea levels for the past several years. Our tropical storms and hurricanes are becoming not only stronger each year, but there's more of them each year. I mean, you may recall last year, we even had to go to the Greek alphabet. We ran out of our
Yeah.
own alphabet. We had to go to
Yeah.
the Greek
I remember
alphabet,
that.
right?
Yeah.
But what's shrinking is the time between those events. So communities that are on the front edge, or, bearing the brunt of these storms, have less time to actually recover between them. So we really need to be thinking about how we deal with water going forward, and that we need to know it much more deeply, much more viscerally. Just
Mhm.
the same as we know now, without even thinking, that once we get into our automobile, the first thing we need to do is buckle up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way we need to understand water. So we've been doing that. And when the pandemic hit, we actually took that opportunity to transform what had been a PowerPoint presentation that I would go school to school with into now 4 programs. Um, Very, very rich. The school based program is much richer because I was able to work with an educator and somebody who actually developed curriculum. And so this is geared really for teachers to embrace and to put on with ease. And it has all sorts of activities, call it homework for those that are old school like me, but lots of resources, even STEM-based exercises.
Nice. Wow.
So it's a wonderful program. And then we have variations off of that as well. One that is for groups. It's kind of an introduction. It just hits the top line of all of the topics in school-based programming. That could be for after-school events, camps, civic organizations, we all need to learn this, adults and children, whether we swim or we don't swim, we all need to know this information. And then two that can be personally purchased for individuals or family members. And one that actually is a social justice call to action. So we explore the history where once Black and Brown communities had a very deep relationship with the water, and how that became disenfranchised through, of course, the slavery from Africa into our country and to the Caribbean. And then even, as that took root in both places, as the slave masters, would threaten to kill people who went swimming. And so over time, that relationship broke down. And of course, we talked about the Jim Crow laws, and even today. And today, it's not so much about the past in the same way. It's more about how do we now turn something that was once so integral back into the priority it needs to be for families.
Wow, that's great. Wow, thank you for that. That was wonderful. Now, my next question, you kind of touched on this because you mentioned that Swim Strong Foundation is nearing its 15th anniversary. But what made you even say, you know what, I'm going to start Swim Strong? Is there any particular, you kind of covered it, I think, but succinctly, is there something that was the main catalyst for you starting the Swim Strong Foundation?
So, in my volunteer work, I had coached a competitive swim team for 40 years.
Okay.
And it really was those young men and women finding me later in life and sharing how the work we had done was not just about getting faster in the water or stronger in the water, but really life lessons that transcended the
Mm,
pool.
hmm.
So they were learning about how to work as a team. The fact that we didn't necessarily have to like our particular teammate, but we did have to work together. And it was always about the goal being the goal of the team to be accomplished as opposed to our personal goals.
Hmm.
We learned about discipline. We learned about goal setting and how to work to achieve them. We learned about something that we didn't even know what it was called at the time, resiliency.
Mm, yes.
We were a very dominant team, but occasionally we lost. And the fact is, you can do your best at any given time, and somebody can still do better than you. And you
Yes.
need to know how to deal with that and be able to, with honesty, turn to your competitor and say, "Job well done, congratulations to you," and not be bitter about it.
Right.
All of those things really help us as we focused. They told me, helped them as they went on into their high school and collegiate academic lives, helped them as they moved into their careers, helped them as they were now having their own families.
Wow.
So
Very
that's
cool.
what really was the trigger to say, wow, if so much good can come out of this little program, how can we push that to touch the lives of as many children initially, but then about 3 years in, we discovered the adults needed this as well. And so now it's grown as it has.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a great story. It's like, proverbially speaking, it's from the mouth of babes that you decided to start this. And it was a need and you filled it. So that's awesome. Now it sounds like you're having some fun, but what do you like most about your current pursuit?
Well, I love to be in the water teaching. And I often will work with people that have either a fear or some sort of a challenge. And there's nothing greater to me than to see that person embrace whatever that challenge is and work through it to develop the skills. They have told me to a person that they feel reborn
Wow, nice.
through this process because they really have like come through a crucible and they have a whole new life now, one that includes the ability to swim and to feel free and competent and comfortable in the water. It's just, I mean, it gives me, every time I talk about it, just now, I got the chills.
Right. That's
Because
good.
it's life changing. Not only are we blessed to do the work that we are that is life saving, because there is no other activity other than this in a sports or recreation related way that saves lives.
Wow, that's great. You know, when we talk about starting a business here at Urban Upbound, we often will mention to our clients, hey, if you're going to start a business, it has to be something that you can be enthusiastic about. And by you saying that you just got the chills, you meet the criteria. That's great. Now, you know, I've lived in I moved to the Rockaways in 1996, and of course we all know we got spanked in 2012 by Superstorm Sandy. And you touched on climate change and the severity of hurricanes and other natural disasters. Now, right now in New York State, we have two bills. Bill number in the New York State Senate, it's 2207, and in the Assembly, it's 728, and it's about water safety. Can you talk about that? Why is that important, and what can we, vote registered voters, be doing to help push that along?
Sure. So it's important because, again, our world is changing so much because of not only the climate change that we touched on, but in our city and state, municipalities are developing waterfront areas as they never did before. And that's fabulous for someone who understands that particular environment of that water and also has the swimming skills. Brilliant. But most of the population does not have that combination. So therefore, I'm so afraid that we're going to see an uptick in deaths and
Yeah.
accidents. And the accidents that happen around the water, Tyrone, I must tell you, they are often life changing. I'm talking about brain and spinal cord injury.
Wow.
So this is, as much as we're dealing now with the pandemic, which all of us are, and it's been a tough year and it continues to be hard for us, um, drowning has never stopped.
Right.
It is a global epidemic. A person is dying due to drowning every 70 seconds somewhere in the world. And for every death, 5 more people are suffering that brain and spinal cord life changing accident. It's
Wow.
huge.
What can we as registered voters? What should we be doing about this?
Reach out. So reach out to your senator, reach out to your assembly person, and tell them we need to have this information. We all need it. We need it for our children first and foremost, because the problem is, how do you ensure as many people get the training as possible? If something isn't mandated, it doesn't get done. That's just the reality of things,
Yes.
right? We had to mandate um, seatbelts. We had to mandate bike helmets. We have to mandate this. In 50 years, probably less, I can't even imagine what people's relationship will be to the water. It will be so different than what you and I know of it today.
Yeah. What comes to mind is that movie, that Kevin Costner movie, Waterworld, because it's like, you know, the sea levels are rising, everything you talked about. But you know what? I'm going to stop here because
Sure.
you've given a wealth of information in a short period of time. So thank you so much for your time here, and
My pleasure.
I'll make sure to share this. Now hold on, don't run away because I want to talk to you after this offline, okay?
Got
And
it.
this was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Sean. Much
You
appreciated.
made it easy, Tyrone. Thank you.
Well, no, you're a great person to interview. So thank you for that.